The USA versus Kevin Wessell. Wow, that was a shocking sight when I first saw it. I recently got sued by the US federal government, and I'm going to talk about that, and I'm also going to give you some insight that you can use in case you're ever in a similar situation yourself. In late 2018, I was working from home and I got a knock on the door, and it was a lady handing me some documents. On the papers was a request for me to provide documents to the Internal Revenue Service from my business from 2012 to 2017. Now, just to be clear, this was not about me paying my taxes. I and my business are fully tax compliant. It was mainly about customer records. According to what I read, the main intent was making sure my customers are paying their legally required taxes. So I contacted my CPA, and he said, on an issue like this, I need to contact a law firm to make sure that I provide all the documents in the proper format. And by the way, when people see this video, they pay attention to how many likes it gets. So if you could give that thumbs up a tap so YouTube promotes it, I'd really appreciate it. And if you're new here, please click that subscribe button below so that when more videos come out like this one, you'll be up to date right away. So as my CPA said, I contacted the law firm that they recommended, and as the attorneys requested, I gave the lawyers full unfettered access, including usernames and passwords to everything. I mean, everything they asked for. I held absolutely nothing back, and that includes passwords to all stored documents, all accounting records, all customers, all databases. I mean, everything. So this took my law firm and the IRS about 2 or 3 years of going around and around, including at one time in the midst of it all, the IRS saying to stop all production of documents. So as far as I knew, the law firm provided everything responsive to their request. The issue was over, or so I thought. Lo and behold, in 2022, I start seeing my name pop up that the IRS had filed a petition. Now, this was not a normal lawsuit per se that you see. In other words, I'm not being sued for money, plus it's a civil matter handled in civil court, not a criminal matter. It's just a civil one. On the petition, the IRS said that I gave them over 600,000 documents in response to the summons, and it goes on to say that the United States has substantial evidence that I failed to produce all responsive documents, as the summons requires. Evidence obtained from another source, they say, proves that he completely omitted some customers from his customer list and production, even though their information is responsive to the summons. Meanwhile, there is a significant mismatch between the customer list he provided and the documents he produced. Finally, he appears to have produced only partial files for numerous customers. And then they go on to give examples of 3 people's names and 3 company names. Okay, so let's slow this down a bit. Let's take a look at each one of these companies' names and each one of these people's names to see if I complied or failed to comply. So I looked up each company and each name, and voila, there it is in the database that I gave my law firm access to provide to the IRS. And in each of these cases, one person ordered and another person was assigned the owner of the company, apparently. So it's like if you sold a couch on Craigslist to a lady, you tell the IRS who bought it, and the IRS goes to the lady's house and the couch isn't there. Well, she wasn't buying the couch for herself. She was buying it for her daughter who just moved into a new apartment. I mean, people call an order for other people all the time. An attorney or accountant or consultant buys for his or her client. A husband buys and sets up his wife as the owner, which is exactly what happened, it appears, in the case the IRS listed in the public records on one of the documents. Molly R. Chin, they say, who is the beneficial owner of Gemic Company, LLC. Well, the one who called us and placed the order was a Mr. Chin, so it appears to be a husband and wife situation. There are multiple things that could happen that could make the unknowing eye think that some items are missing. Here are 8 of them. Number 1, the name's not available. So we enter the name of a company, such as Smith Consulting, LLC, in our database. Then we go to file the company, and somebody else has already filed that company with that name. So we ask the customer for an alternate name and set up the company, and perhaps someone within our office fails to make a note of that in our database. So we would likely have the company with a new name choice, but we would not have the documents that have the original name choice because we couldn't file it. Number 2, provider background check. Somebody can call and place an order, and when our filing agent does a background check, there is something in the customer's past that makes us not want to do business with them, so we can't fulfill the order. So they see an order on one hand and no company documents on the other hand, simply because the customer didn't pass the background check. Number 3, the customer doesn't provide the due diligence, and this is quite common. In order to file a company internationally, the customer needs to provide a notarized copy of a passport, an original utility bill to prove residential address, a reference letter from a bank and/or attorney or accountant, etc. if they don't provide it, we can't fulfill the order. So they see an order on one hand and no company documents on the other hand, simply because the customer didn't give us what we needed to fulfill the order. Number 4, human error. The company policy is that we scan the company documents before shipping. There have been cases where I asked to see copies of company documents, and I've been told by our employees, "I'm sorry, sir, I was in a hurry shipping a bunch of documents and I forgot to scan them." So it's like if you have the habit of keeping a paper receipt from every restaurant you ever went to. Say you forgot to keep one, you lost one, never got one from the restaurant, etc. Then 6 years later, the IRS asks to see all of your paper receipts. Well, first of all, you had no idea that in 6 years the IRS was going to ask you for them, just like we didn't have a crystal ball to predict this request for documents would happen. Second of all, there was no legal requirement in the first place for you to keep your restaurant receipts when you take your spouse or friend out to a non-business lunch anyway. Likewise, there was no legal requirement for us to scan these documents. We did scan most of them as that was company policy, but that was for our own convenience, not because it was required. So human error. Number 5, one customer buys a company for another person. Now we set up companies, but it would be a violation of state and federal securities law for us to sell issued shares of stock. So legally, we have to send the stock certificates blank and the customer fills it out himself or herself. We don't send thousands of hover drones to people's bedrooms to see what names they write on the stock certificates. Nor are we going to violate the law by issuing stock and selling that issued stock to a customer. So people can write whatever name they want to as the owner of that stock. That person could transfer it to somebody else, and we're not standing over them when they do it. Number 6, failure to meet the bank's background check. We may sell a company and a bank account, but if the customer doesn't meet the bank's background check, they're not getting an account open with that bank. Thus, there would be no bank account to show. Number 7, attorney error. Since we gave our law firm the keys to the kingdom, maybe there were documents they didn't find. Maybe there are documents they or I didn't know about, didn't check, I don't know. And number 8, there could be other things that I don't know about as I'm sitting here as to why they think there were missing items. So we got together with the IRS personnel, we had a meeting, we all sat around in a circle and went over some of these possibilities. And I must say they were the nicest people. They were really good people just doing their jobs. In fact, my father worked for the U.S. federal government for most of his career. My grandfather was a U.S. Marine. My son was a U.S. Marine. My sister, a U.S. federal government employee. All really good, honest people. And these people don't fully understand my business naturally because they're not in it. But I'm an open book. After all, it's not my job to tell Congress or the IRS what to do. It's their job to tell me what to do. And if I have to provide information, that's fine. I'll do it whatever the law requires. My philosophy from day one in 1991 when I started in this business is to obey the law first, make a profit second. And there's way too much good, clean, honest business out there to do business with people who don't want to comply with the law. So pay your taxes, obey the law, and you never have to look over your shoulder or lose a night of sleep. I don't want tax evaders or people doing illegal things as clients. We do our best to weed them out up front, and everybody here knows it because I tell them over and over and over again. I mean, what's the best way not to get caught for doing something wrong? Don't do something wrong. It's that simple. So why am I making this video? Well, I've been in this business for about 31 years, and what I've seen is that things get out on the internet. People read it, and they don't come up to you and ask you about it. Instead, they avoid you. So instead of talking directly to the guy who knows what's going on, they talk to everybody but you, and then gossip spreads like wildfire. So if you ever run into a similar situation, it's best to just talk about it openly first before people find out about it on their own. Be an open book because you know more about it than anybody else out there. I mean, there are people online who download these publicly filed legal documents like this that they get for free on the internet. And then they write titillating or scathing teaser paragraphs to get the gossip adrenaline rush flowing. And they do that to get people to click on it and pay these websites to get documents they could just get for free themselves online if they knew where to look. So that's what's going on. I hope this is helpful for you. And if anything similar happens to you, you'll have a little insight. You'll know what to do. Please click like, subscribe, and share this video. Thanks so much. Bye.